Good morning.
Morning.
First, I'd like to thank Sherman for his great sharing. I really enjoyed the time we had together in Taiwan. And his sharing on U.S. history reminds me of my history trip at school last year. I went to the Library of Congress, I went to the Capitol, I went to many other famous places, but I didn't understand how Dharma was so interconnected with these locations. And I'm really grateful for Sherman for bringing that up. It's really inspiring because Dharma is in infinite places, but at the same time, it comes back to one. And that's kind of what I felt from Master's teaching in the video that was played in the beginning. It's always kind of nice to have this experience here, and I'm very grateful for it because the title here, Following Master, Following the Buddha, is something that Master has been mentioning for many, many years, and especially recently, because as many people know, it's Tzu Chi's 50th anniversary. One quote, or one paraphrased quote from Master's teaching was very touching to me. Here's what it is. Master said, paraphrased, "Over the course of approximately 2,500 years, the world has evolved from its period of true Dharma to the period of Dharma decline. I hope to revert this. I hope to step back to the period of true Dharma, but the strength of one person is not enough. We must adopt this vow together for change to come." As we know, it has been about 2,500 years since Buddha's time. Master said this on the day of Tzu Chi's 50th anniversary. And I was deeply touched by this because this is something extremely hard to do. We're in the time of Dharma decline. It's no longer the time of Dharma semblance, and it's definitely not the time of true Dharma. But the difference in time, even if it's so large, 2,500 years, Master still has hope to change the world back to that time. And how do you do that? Because when we think of the Aztecs, or when we think of George Washington, or early human beings, we feel the separation in time. And it often feels like time is the greatest separation in life from people in the past and from teachings in the past. So I looked up the definition of time in Merriam-Webster. That was very interesting because here it is. Time is the thing that is measured as seconds, minutes, hours, days, years, etc. That's their definition. And I thought of how I would define time. Time is something so hard to see and feel because usually we use clocks, but clocks are just mechanisms from electricity. We sometimes use different kinds of gravity-inspired objects that can measure time as 1 minute or 2 minutes. But that's still something that we define. All of these things, seconds, minutes, hours, days, and years, are all things that we say, here's how much it is. And that makes me remember when I was little, I used to ask my mom when I was doing homework or doing some worksheets that if I could play for just 1 minute. I wanted to play with my toys. I was kind of bored of all of the work. So I said, "Mom, I just want to play for 1 minute." And she said, "Okay, go ahead." And I was opening my box, and I was just about to take my toy out, and she said, "Time's up." And I asked her, "That wasn't a minute." And she said, "That was a minute." To her, time is passing very slowly. She was standing there, she was watching, she was bored, and she was thinking, when is he coming back to his seat to do work? And I was thinking, I want more time. So I thought that time was passing very fast. But which one is right? Which one is a minute? Well, I think the clock can justify that, but we didn't have one in our mind. And the same minute that was defined in the definition in the previous slide has so different feelings to other people when they're in different settings. So what is a minute? What is an year? It's very hard to define, and it's very indefinite to the mind. The same applies to 2,500 years. Looking beyond the name of years and minutes and days, we can express 2,500 years in any unit. But at the same time, people from different places, from different locations, feel different about the same amount of time based on what they're thinking. Just about 2,500 years ago, some of the ancient Indian houses looked like this. And now they're pretty fancy. They have big windows. They have great architects. And the old ones were too, except they were in a different style. What were these people thinking of? Well, ancient India houses had architects or designers that were probably considering temperature, shelter from wild animals, etc. And now people think of houses as shelters that have to have big windows, modern designs, and many other beautiful structures. But the big question is, did the houses create those thoughts, or did the thoughts create the houses? Well, the truth is that thoughts created houses. It's kind of like a cause and effect chart where these thoughts of warmth, of temperature, of coolness in the summer created the houses of ancient India. And the modern design and mind created the houses that exist right now. But the point is, all of these houses were one time deteriorating. The houses that existed 2,500 years ago have completely deteriorated. The same will happen to many other houses that exist today. So we can conclude that the mind is the creator of all. Without the mind, without people, these houses would have never been created. But time is such an indefinite quantity. Yes, there are differences in looks, in houses, and people from 2,500 years ago and now. But these are all looks. These are all things that will not exist forever. They will deteriorate someday. The true difference that separates us from the true Dharma time is really the mind. I was deeply touched by one of Master's teachings, and that is distant feeling from time to another is dependent on the mind. And forgetfulness elongates that distance. If we hear some Dharma just a minute ago, we were very happy, but a minute later, we forget it. That moment in time feels really far from now. Sometimes when I was listening to Dharma Master Cheng's teachings, I would finish it up and I would get distracted by something else. Then 15 minutes later, I think that time when I was listening was an hour ago. And it's so indefinite in this case. Time is something that you define by what you think and what you perceive it as. So here are the conclusions. The difference in time from now and 2,500 years ago, or now and 1 million years ago, is really the mind. Everything else is something that will not last forever. But it's hard to understand that. Yes, we could say that if we change our minds from afflictions and delusions to one that is very clean in the true Dharma time, we are in the true Dharma time. We could say that, but it's hard to change. It's hard to change from the time and the mind of afflictions to that clean and pure mind that we saw in the video in the beginning. And even if we say that the mind is the creator of all, it's sometimes hard to reconstruct a mind that has been deteriorated by all of the afflictions. I was also touched by Master Cheng's quote here when there was a disaster relief in Ecuador. She said, "Only when love and hope is in hearts can broken structures and houses begin to melt. This is true because everything, the mind, is the creator of everything. And when we have a change of mind from delusion, from afflictions in the period of Dharma decline, we can eventually put ourselves back into the time of Dharma, true Dharma. But how can we do that? I heard this story about some people, some young people, who were very involved in video games. And it's becoming a very large problem. I saw this Wikipedia page about video game addiction. And I was thinking to myself, why would that happen? And then I scrolled down and I saw notable deaths. And I was shocked. I heard the first story from Dharma Master's teachings when she mentioned that someone in Taiwan passed away while playing video games for a long, long time. His parents, or her parents, found him or her died in the arcade. And there were also 2 people in 2012 in Taiwan who passed away from probably cardiovascular issues after playing video games and fixing their eyes on the computer monitor. Why does this happen? To some people, video games are just non-essential to life. To some people, there are many other meaningful things in life that needs to be focused on. However, to some other people, video games are part of their life, and they have a hard time separating from that. The same applies to many of the problems and afflictions that we encounter in life. It's hard to let go of them, and that's what makes the change from Dharma decline to true Dharma such a big distance. And just like Dharma Master's quote, the distance from one time to another is dependent on the mind. But we have forgotten, many of the people now have forgotten their true Buddha nature. That forgetfulness elongates that time from the true Dharma to the right now. But the truth is, many Tzu Chi volunteers are just doing the right thing to let go of all of the afflictions. I saw this picture of Syrian refugees, his father with his child, in the process of trying to find a place where they could safely live. This made me really sad. And also sometimes I watch sad movies, and for hours after, I keep on thinking of it, and I let go of what I thought before, all of the afflictions, and my mind focuses on what I just watched. This happens when we go into the world of Dharma decline, when we see all of these sufferings, and we have compassion and love. It's time, just like Master said, to have the responsibility to change the world of Dharma decline to true Dharma. And it's just like this great white ox cart, which is frequently mentioned in Wisdom at Dawn. The weight that this cow, white ox, is taking with him is just like the responsibility of changing the period of Dharma decline to true Dharma. It's heavy, but is it true that the heaviness of this cart is something tiring and something that's just too hard to do? Actually, it's not. I used to think that it was hard to change the time of Dharma decline to true Dharma, just like Master said. But Dharma Master said this quote, "The weight of the great white ox cart can break open deep bonds to afflictions." It's just like the weight of heavy things that can pound open windows and glass and structures and are used in demolitions of houses. But this time, it's breaking open the bonds to afflictions. And that's exactly what we're doing in cultivation. With compassion and love, we know that there are many sufferings in life, not only next to us, but also in places far away from us, like the Syrian refugee crisis. And when we think of that, we start to put action. And when we put action, and when we see the people who were suffering smile and say thank you, and eventually come into Tzu Chi and work with us, we eventually feel joy and feel that all of the other afflictions that we used to have were non-essential to life and were completely useless. And when that happens, we begin to inch closer and closer to Dharma Master, and closer to the period of true Dharma. That way, we can break open all of the definitions of years, of seconds, of days, and minutes, and eventually finish the vow that Dharma Master mentioned on Tzu Chi's anniversary. This also makes me remember the common saying in Taiwan that someone who has perseverance over a long period of time, over many decades, has worked for many decades just like a day. That's kind of what time is saying to us. It's set by the mind. 20 years could be long if we have changed back and forth, if I have changed from this thought to that thought, and all around the place, making myself completely confused in time. But Master Cheng, Grandmaster, has done Tzu Chi path for 50 years non-stop. That's 50 years, but to her it's just like a day. Because there is no difference from the time when she began and the time when right now.